Hello, everyone. Such a wonderful show. Um, so we're going to start with our little panel discussion. With us today, we have Makoto Hirano, who played the grandfather. We have Amy Boehly, who played Esther Song, and we have Katie Liu, who is the writer of the show. So if any of you guys have any questions or comments in the audience, feel free to use the Q&A tab or pop it in the chat and we can answer your questions. But me and Joe have set up a few questions to get the panel discussion started. So if you guys could each introduce yourselves with your name, what part you were, your pronouns, and then also you can kind of note something about the process that you would like to share that inspired you or something of that effect. So whoever would like to start, go right ahead. Me? Oh, you want me to introduce? Okay, so I'm Shannon Colligan. I'm vice president of Stockton Theater Club and one of the discussion people here. So Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? My name is Giovanna Bartoloni, and I'm the president here at Stockton University. Not Stockton University, Stockton Theater Club. Oh my gosh, yes, I run the university. Isn't that so crazy? No, I just run the theater club, unfortunately. But hey, a girl can dream. A girl can dream. But Katie, do you want to come after me?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Katie Liu. My pronouns are she, her, and I was the playwright of this production. And I guess one thing to share out of the gate is that I'm really new to theater and drama and like productions of plays and the table work process. So I came into this production completely new to everything and unaware of the whole process going down. And I was just so moved by how amazing the process is and all the collaboration and hard work that goes into it. So.
Amy, you're up.
I was trying to and my partner's cooking, so you might hear just like sizzling. Just watch.
We're here for it. We love background noise.
Hello, everyone. My name. I played Esther. Something that stood out to me about this this experience was that it was the first thing I had gotten to do since the pandemic, theater-wise, and it's been really interesting to figure out how to adapt stage acting and everything you would do on stage to virtual. And also, I have a friend from Stockton. I think she majored in Stockton at theater. Celine. I don't know if you know her. Maybe
Celine Fleener?
Oh, Celine Fleener. We went to high school together.
We do know Celine.
We do know Celine. She just recently graduated.
Yeah, Celine and I went to the same high school. My pronouns are also, but yeah. Hi, Callie. Wow. Yes. Yeah, Callie and Celine and I went to school together.
That's
Whoa!
Cool.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute and so cool.
All right, Makoto.
Hi, everyone. My name is Makoto. I use he, him pronouns. I play Grandpa, and what a delight. Some things that a thing that was very meaningful, impactful for me in this process was not unlike what Amy was saying, as far as like making something during. God, making stuff during a pandemic is so difficult. If you being anyone here made anything, created anything during the pandemic, you're a hero. You're a superstar. It's so challenging. And so being in a room as a creator and a maker of a lot of things myself, I was feeling lonely and stagnant. And so being in a creative room, one, just was so delightful. Also with mostly people that I either knew and liked or had heard of, and respected, and or people that were new, that were clearly full of talent and also generosity. Just like being in that kind of supportive, beautiful room was, and doing something creative was so moving, so basic. It's like pre-pandemic. It's like, man, whatever. You just like take it for granted as artist people, but so meaningful. And on top of that was that it was a majority Asian and Asian American room, which is on its own, in its own sort of category of incredible experience. So these things, those are the things. Those are some of the things that were that I'll always remember about this process. That I was moved by.
So wonderful. It's just such a good show. Like I just enjoyed it so much. It's just such, it's so impactful. For one of our first questions, Meredith has asked in the chat, for Katie, have you always wanted to be a writer, or was this piece the first thing you've ever wrote or wanted to write? And if not, what was it about this piece that made you want to bring it to theater?
Yeah, so I didn't know I wanted to be a playwright for a long time. I always thought I was more of a short story writer or like a prose writer. But I think when I joined the Philadelphia Young Playwrights residential program, I was so inspired by what theater can bring to storytelling. And I was so inspired to create a dramatic script piece and bring it to a theater program. So this play was the first play I've ever written. And I wrote it during the pandemic, inspired by all the events going on in the real world, and researching my own family history and cultural identity struggles I was going through. So I really wanted to bring it to audiences because of how timely it was and how I think it's a experience very universal of a lot of the Asian American community, and I wanted people to hear it and empathize with it and hopefully take things away. So yeah.
That's crazy that this is the first play you've ever written, and it's
got wonderful places to go.
Yeah, it's been shown. Like, do you feel famous? Do you feel popular? Like, how do you feel? Is it overwhelming?
It was weird because I usually when I started getting introduced to like my school, and like my school friends started hearing about it, and like teachers, and then I was thinking like, okay, wow, I was not thinking that it was gonna actually reach with audiences beyond like the PYP community. So it was really cool in that way, and just super humbling to see people be impacted by it and just see the collaborative process, you know. It like used to be like just this thing I was working on in like my school files, my computer, and then it started becoming something much more incredible. And I just really love how much of a shared experience that was, and working with our amazing director Kat and the amazing actors and crew, and yeah.
This question is pretty much open to anyone who wants to answer it. How was the process of, recording and like getting into your characters? And Katie, I don't know if you had to do like a bunch of rewrites or if you just wrote it once and then it was good to go. Like, we just want to hear about the process and what you all went through.
So what was it, like a 4-week? So, and if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say like around 4 weeks. So 3 weeks rehearsing, and then last week was the filming. And definitely jumping into filming was super strange because we had many takes of, and just jumping into it because of order. Like especially all the scenes where Esther has to run into the hospital very distraught. I'd be like, hold on. And like before, because we were at least allowed like the moment before that wouldn't be there, I'd have to sit there and go just to get myself there. But there was like Katie had a really solid draft when we started. But of course, throughout the process and via the lovely collaborative nature of the room, there was a lot of adjustments being made the whole time, especially figuring out what would work on stage versus how can we translate this well to a radio play?
Yeah, that's a great point, Amy. So as maybe it's been discussed already, but so yeah, this Katie, and I'll let Katie speak on this too. But right, this play was made with a staged version in mind, and so a lot of tiny micro decisions had to be made in collaboration with Katie about how to transition this to be for audio. One thing I want to share, which I think is fun in kind of a nerdy way about the technical things about making this, was, as Amy spoke to a little bit about the numerous takes. So we were on Zoom, and our technical staff and our sound designer like figured out how to do this. But basically, we all connected mics. We all like either shipped or picked up mics, actual mics, like professional mics, brand new, blah blah blah, and it's all connected with wires and such directly into our modems. And so the recording isn't going through our computers. At least this was my experience. Maybe, I'm pretty sure everybody's. Amy, does this sound different? Okay, I'll let Amy tell Amy's version. But
I don't know how to plug it into my modem.
To be fair, I was like, which one is modem? Anyway, but once we figured it out, and we had a whole, I don't know, hour to just like do technical stuff, which is like set up the mic, set up the Zoom, and not record things via Zoom, but we can still be in the scene together via Zoom, right? So the recording device was a separate thing, connected separately, which was being sort of captured on a device by the sound designer. So we're all recording, basically creating our own recording studio in our own homes, and then visually working off of Zoom. And then so from there we did numerous takes. We just like be in the scene together, run the scene, run it a few times, at least 3 times each scene, and then little pieces here and there, little lines and stuff like that would be redone. And I was gonna, and then I was gonna hand it off. I just wanted to share that much. But I was gonna hand it off to Katie about the rewrites, because that was amongst the many new things. You're like, yo, we need a rewrite on this part, like by tomorrow. Let's pump it out, kind of thing, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think from the beginning, I was writing it in mind that the pandemic was going to be like a 2-week break from school. So I wrote it with the stage in mind. So I think my original plan, I wrote it so that the scenes between the 1930s and 2020 skip back and forth on like 2 sides of the stage. The stage was divided in half. The left stage would be the 1930s, and the right stage would be the 2020 set, and it would skip back and forth with the lights. So I was kind of playing with the lights and the staging of that and the positioning. And when I had no idea that a radio play would even be an option, but when it was introduced, I thought it would be super cool to kind of create that experience of a nonlinear story and showing different time periods and characters from different eras through just sound. And I thought that was really interesting to figure out. So, but I had to transfer this like very physical script and make it like just about an audible experience and just about dialogue. So we were working with the actors a lot. We were working on, portraying the story in a similar experience, but without like the added sets, without being able to see like the costuming of a 1930s character. So we went into a lot of dialect work to get that location and that era coming across to the audience, and that was super fun to watch. And and also we worked a lot to without like being able to see the sets and the faces, we worked a lot on like the personalities of the characters. I remember Kat would talk about in every line what each character would be feeling, what each character's entire backstory with that line would be, to and maybe the actors can speak more on this, but make the so much more come out through just the voices and the inflection of the lines.
Yeah, something I really love about Kat as a director is that they like to ask a lot of questions in order to help the actors kind of figure out what's personally for Esther's monologues are to her mom, and it's via phone. Times it would be me in my head writing what mom was saying, and Kat would be like, I think mom is a problem solver, like, immediately, which was really helpful. Thinking about, where is dad, what's dad doing, why is mom such a helicopter parent, all those things. It was fun. I talk about it all the time as like writing fan fiction for the play. My favorite thing to do, also in playwriting as well. But yeah, it's really fun just to kind of think about what all the characters, what everyone else is doing.
Amy, can I put you on the spot? Can you talk about when Kat would be like, so what were you going for there?
Yeah, that's a question that Kat asked me a lot, and I'd be like, I don't know. Sometimes you just don't know. It was Kat's very nice way of being like, I want to know if you had an intention, if you had like anything behind that in mind that you wanted, that you were trying to get across, because maybe it wasn't reading so clear, but it really wasn't. It was just me being lazy and not good. But geez, okay, fine.
Yeah, we love directors. They always have their little quirks of letting you know, So one of our other questions that we thought of was, with so many more radio plays being done, and especially like the experience that you've had with this radio play and different styles of theater, do you think there'll be more of these going forward? And what do you see the future of theater heading? Like, do you see like, with this, and especially with this show, Katie, like, would you consider possibly doing it on a stage sometime in the future, or do you like where it is as a radio play?
I think I'm not sure if I can speak on theater as a whole since I'm obviously super new to it, but I think for my play specifically, I love what the radio show brought to it, and I think I definitely prefer the sound experience over the stage experience that I originally had in mind. I think the characters are so much more like dynamic, and the performances really shine through the radio performances. But I would love if there was an opportunity to see the play performed on a stage, and I'm just open to anything.
We see that the play compares a lot of past and present. If you were to add a future component to this play, what would you imagine or hope that it would look like? This is to all of you, just to throw you in there. Whoever wants to answer can just jump in.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Well, the play is very generational. I really wanted it to have family ties between all the characters. So I would assume down in the future there would be some kind of descendant of Esther and May. Since a theme of the play I really wanted to come across was that that you persist through all these struggles and these trials of prejudice for the hope of your future generations and the lives that you hope that they will live. So a future component I would hope is a descendant of theirs in a future generation undergoing their own form of hopefully lesser racial prejudice, but still having those always present struggles of their reconciling their cultural identity and their belonging in their society, but continuing to persevere for their family.
Yeah, I'd be super interested to see that as well, especially because, let's see, Esther is second generation. So I'd be interested to see if there were third and fourth generation Asian Americans in the play, and what that would look like, especially even though I feel like even now there are a lot of second generation, specifically Asian Americanized, because of that strangely pervasive perpetual foreigner idea that a lot of specifically Asians are kind of relegated to. I wonder how different the treatment would be. But maybe that's not me wishing what I would like to see in the play, but just in life.
Mm.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, I think that's a really good point. I think that from my friends who have been, their parents immigrated more generations earlier, so they're like their third generation an American. I feel like they sometimes undergo struggles of they are losing part of their heritage of Asia or whatever country that their family was originally from, and they feel that in their family's goal to assimilate and become an American citizen, they've lost that part of them that was so important to them and who they are. And I think a future component could touch on that and touch on, kind of searching for your cultural identity and trying to reconcile that with your nationality and find a balance between losing that part of you and still being a citizen of your country.
That's great answers. I'm gonna throw in my what if, even though I didn't have any hand in writing this play, but my brain goes to like, what if it's like the year, I don't know, like 2600 or something, and if you like, I'm trying to imagine a version where we're like, right, people in 1914 couldn't imagine what the issues, as far as like racial justice, social justice, ecological justice, intersectionality, like all these terms, is like there's no version of at least the common people being able to anticipate that. So I'm like trying to imagine a version that I can't anticipate, which is like some wild sci-fi something where people, like, if you're not mixed with like 15 different ethnicities that you can trace back, then you're like frowned upon. And like if you can't cite those and like cite those histories, then you're like, you have no cultural cachet or something. And like, how, like, what's so weird and different, but yet it's but there's still discrimination based on background, based on knowledge, based on there's just othering, there's still othering. And I don't know, that's where my brain goes. Maybe I'll write that play.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to see an underwater futuristic.
Yeah.
Love that. It would be so much fun. But so another question, in the play you touch upon many historical elements like the Chinese Exclusion Act. What kind of research did you do? And when doing your research, were there certain events that caught you by surprise or that you had already known about? Things like that for Katie.
Yeah. So before kind of embarking on writing this play, I didn't know that much about Asian American history in the U.S. I feel like the U.S. public education system doesn't really go over events like the Chinese Exclusion Act or Yellow Fever in any meaningful detail. So that was really important to me to learn as much as I could about that. So I think first, I was really interested in the Asian American immigrant experience. So I was talking a lot to my parents, who both immigrated from China, and talking about their experiences and why they essentially gave up their lives to move to this country that wasn't especially welcoming of them. And I also read a lot of stories online of how people immigrated through the Yellow Fever period, through the Chinese Exclusion Act period, and all of those events throughout the 19th and 20th century. And I think what really surprised me was, there were so many forces against them with these immigration laws and the general just outcasting of Asian immigrants in the US at that time. And it was really inspiring how people Asian Americans came together. They started founding Chinatowns and Koreatowns. I believe the Chinatown Philadelphia started out of a laundromat. And it was just super interesting to see how people still came over, immigrated, and set down roots in this country that was not welcoming at all, and managed to find little pockets of home and be able to start families for the future.
That's inspiring. All right. So this is a question for all of you because since you guys did a radio play, I would hope that, not that I would hope, the two actors, you guys have done live theater before, yeah? Okay. So do you feel a radio play is just as impactful as live theater, or do you feel like they touch our audiences differently depending on what the show's about and how you approach it from the standpoint of an actor and the playwright?
That's really interesting because I feel like when you go see live theater, it's kind of a shared experience that you have with everyone else in the audience. It's something that you all go through together. But when you just have a show through an audio, through a medium with just audio, for example, I keep thinking of if you're reading a book to yourself or you're just watching, it really can change based on your mood or thoughts you were having before that. So they're definitely impactful in different ways. I know for me personally as a performer, I definitely prefer live theater because I love instant gratification. I also might do this. I like to be able to feel the temperature of the room. But it's been kind of nice to just sit back and have something already finished and not have any control over what people think of it. It's almost less to worry about. And then I don't have to worry about, well, it's less work for my brain every night, I get a show, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I think Amy touched on most of it. I'm trying to think of an analogy, and I'm gonna fall short on it. But there's something to the effect of there's something about the live experience and the coming together, the convening with other humans and having a shared experience in that moment that can never be repeated. Something that is so lovely and wonderful and magical, and it's also incredibly frustrating in sort of ephemeral nature of live performance. So right, it's packed with all of that, and then there is audio recorded. There's just I guess it's digital content, anything that is available can it doesn't have any of those qualities as far as the convening with other humans and having a share in the moment shared experience with other humans. However, one can have that in their back pocket. I mean, literally on a device, right? They can listen to it whenever they want, and they can. So it, in a sense, can permeate. I'm imagining somebody having listened to this while they were cooking. They're just headphones on, and they're cooking while they're listening to this radio play, which is that's incredible. That's its own different, incredible experience that I haven't really been part of, not that much, not to this degree. And so I think that they carry different weight. That's all I have to add to Amy's answer.
Okay, so we have one more question left for all of you. So we kind of already touched on what was impactful during your introductions, but I also wanted to ask, how did you grow and change as a result of this process / what did you learn? through this process and through being a part of the show.
I think when I was Esther's age, I had a lot of the same emotions about my own experiences being an Asian American person. And I think getting to spend time with my grandfather in the play has led me to think about. I just think that while anger is an important, I feel like directing that anger into change, meaningful, positive change, is definitely something more worthwhile. And it's something I try to remind myself when I get really angry, especially with everything going on right now. When we started filming, that's when there was kind of like that second wave of like a lot of the really bad attacks against specifically Asian American elders, which made it really strange to film. And I'm honestly grateful we're not filming it now because of that. But yeah, I guess the message of hope from Grandpa.
That's awesome. The thing that helped for me, I don't know if this will lead to growth. I'm not at growth yet. Change, yes, growth soon, maybe. And it has to do with how, so I, oh man, that's such a good question. It's such a good question. I'm at the age now. I might not look it. I have no idea how old I look, but I'm at the age now where I'm in between. I'm in between. Is that true? I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of in between being old, what I consider is like, oh, old person, and then being like a sprightly young person. So, and when I 10, 15, 20 years ago, yeah, I was like on the streets. Shit, yeah, 20 years ago, I was went to my first protest, right, in Chicago, and with my professor, and we were like, this is the way to enact change. This is how we show them. This is how we show them we will take no more. And then, well, and then George W. Bush was elected again. I was like, what? That's crazy. I just didn't think that was a possibility. And so, but that energy from 20 and 15 years ago is like carried me through in that perspective and those actions, those direct actions of fighting injustice and advocacy work, etc. And so feeling like and saying nothing has changed, everything is the same. And then getting to currently now I'm sort of in the bridge where I'm like gonna be grandpa's age sooner than later. And so I'm starting to see the beginnings of grandpa's perspective, which is like things have changed. You haven't seen it. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not occurring. And then I'm currently in the middle because like that, though that might be true, the other side, it's also true that the young people are experiencing that and they don't want, and they do want to see change and they should get it now. Like that, those are all true. And so now I'm in the middle, literally like in my age right now where I'm like, I see both sides. I get it. I totally get it. And I don't, all this to say that working on this play has helped me identify that's where I am currently. And I'm like, it's a thing, like maybe we all have this where we like don't think about something. Maybe it's a big deal, topic, theme, something in your life, but you don't think about it for a couple of years, and then you check back on it. Someone says, hey, how do you feel about such and such? Or like you read something, whatever, and you're like, oh, my thoughts have changed. Not actively, you didn't actively change them, but just like over time, something has shifted. And then over time again, 5-7 years later, you like think about that thing again. And you're like, man, I was so fiery about that one thing. Now I feel less fiery about it, or whatever, so on and so forth. But it's kind of like that, where like working on this play, allowed me to identify that I'm starting to feel the push and pull, or the polars. I don't know, the two sides of that sort of experience, and I'm feeling it both. And that's unexpected unexpected sort of insight. I'm like, I'm just an actor. I'll work on the play. You give me money, I do the lines or whatever, you know. But so, and I'm like, maybe it'll be fun. And of course, it was so fun. But also, I wasn't expecting that kind of gaining any kind of insight. So that's in the sort of growth and change category. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, I think when I was writing this play, I really came from it to kind of highlight experiences of, racism I've faced or racism I've heard about on the news or read about from the past, and putting in all these different thematic ideas of generational trauma, social change, and that kind of progress. And I wasn't fully aware of this thing that I learned until after the product, but when I listened to the play in full, I kind of saw, like, not for the first time, obviously when I was writing it, I had this idea in mind, but I kind of saw in a different way how the relationships between May and her child and Esther and her grandfather are at the heart of the play. And I kind of learned that through so much of these, trials and tribulations, these struggles, those relationships are really what ground us, and they're what help us. We learn different things from the people we love. We take in their insights, their lessons, we take their love, we find belonging with them. And I think that kind of belonging and sense of home that you get with your family and friends, that's what gives you kind of the resilience to persevere through all this outside violence and outside attacks. And I think I've tried to apply that as much as I could in my personal life. So I think that's where I've grown the most.
Thank you all so much for sharing. That's, yeah, so wonderful.
Yeah, you all are inspiring, honestly, Katie. When I read that you were 16, I was like, no way. There's no way she's 16. I was like, get out of here. No. You're so inspiring. And I know that me and my club members were like, yes, because we're so excited that that people are starting to do theater, like radio plays and everything like that, because it's like, please, like, keep making art alive. Like, we need it, and I just want to say that, like, I know that, like, I'm just a girl from like northern New Jersey, but as a thespian person, like, thank you. It's so like heartwarming, and thank you guys to the actors, and thank you to your entire production team, because it was so amazing. And I just want to say, like, thank you and keep up the good work, and I hope to see you guys doing something different soon.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming tonight to talk to us and let us prod you with questions. But it's very inspiring to hear your stories and hear the process and how it went. But
thank you for having us.
Of course.
Yeah.
So on that note,